They called him Caligula the Little Boots. Born into privilege, adored as a child by the Roman legions, and later crowned as Emperor of Rome, for a brief moment, the people believed he would be their savior, a shining star after years of cruelty under his predecessor. But within months, the dream collapsed into nightmare. What began as love for a young emperor turned into horror at the unraveling of his mind. This is not just history, it is the story of one man's descent into madness, a tale of absolute power, betrayal, fear, and the chilling consequences of unchecked authority. But how does a man loved by millions transform into a ruler remembered as one of history's greatest monsters? Was he truly insane, or was there something darker at play? Tonight, we step into the shadows of Rome to uncover the human drama behind the legend of Caligula the Emperor who lost his mind. At first, Caligula's life was steeped in tragedy. He was born Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, son of Germanicus, a brilliant and beloved general. His father's popularity rivaled that of the emperor himself, and that was dangerous. Germanicus died under mysterious circumstances when Caligula was only 7 years old. Some whispered poison, some pointed to the hand of Emperor Tiberius. Whatever the truth, the boy who once wore miniature soldier-esque boots to amuse the troops was left with a father-shaped hole in his life. From that moment on, Caligula learned a harsh lesson. In Rome, love could be deadly, and trust could get you killed. He grew up watching the brutal reign of Emperor Tiberius. Tiberius ruled not from the capital, but from the island of Capri, where dark rumors spread of grotesque feasts, perversions, and cruelty beyond imagination. Caligula, still just a teenager, was taken to live with him. Imagine being sent into the lair of the man many believed had murdered your father. For 6 years, Caligula survived under Tiberius's suspicious gaze. He played the perfect game, never showing emotion, never revealing desire. He learned to hide his fear and mask his ambition. And then, when Tiberius died in 37 AD, Caligula was suddenly elevated to emperor. The Senate rejoiced, the people cheered, Rome exploded with joy. At just 24 years old, Caligula was hailed as a savior, a bright hope after decades of cruelty. For the first months, he delivered on that hope. He pardoned political prisoners, brought back exiled citizens, honored his dead mother and brothers, and promised a return to justice. Crowds worshipped him, temples sang his praises. For a fleeting moment, Rome believed it had found a benevolent ruler. But then, something changed. 6 months into his reign, Caligula fell gravely ill. Accounts differ. Some say it was a disease, others suggest poisoning, still others whisper it was the strain of power finally breaking him. For weeks, he lingered near death. Rome held its breath. And when he finally recovered, it was not the same man who rose from his bed. The young emperor, who had once shown compassion, now unveiled a darker face. It was as though something inside him had cracked. He began to see conspiracies everywhere. Senators, generals, even his closest allies, anyone could be plotting against him. His paranoia grew until it poisoned his every decision. And then, his actions became unthinkable. He declared himself a living god. Statues of himself were erected in temples, and he ordered his image placed beside the most sacred deities. He even demanded worshippers offer sacrifices in his name. For the Romans, who revered their gods with deep seriousness, this was blasphemy. But who could defy an emperor who believed himself divine? His cruelty escalated. Caligula forced senators to run beside his chariot, humiliating the most powerful men in Rome. He staged elaborate shows, not just for entertainment, but for domination. Some said he delighted in watching executions as if they were theater. Others claimed he turned the palace into a house of horrors where no one was safe, not even his own family. But perhaps the most infamous story is his horse, Incitatus. Caligula adored this horse so much he gave it a marble stall, ivory feed buckets, and even servants. He dined with the animal and declared it sacred. Ancient accounts claim he planned to make Incitatus a consul, one of the highest political offices in Rome. Was this madness? Or was it a calculated insult to the Senate, showing them that even a horse was more valuable than their loyalty? The line between insanity and cruelty blurred. But power alone doesn't explain the depths of his behavior. Caligula's personal life was no less shocking. He was accused of unspeakable acts, incest with his sisters, extravagant feasts where food and wealth were wasted, and indulgences that pushed the boundaries of morality. It's difficult to know how much of this is true. Some ancient writers despised him and may have exaggerated. But what is undeniable is that fear became the currency of his court. Senators who once cheered his name now trembled at the sight of him. Ordinary citizens who once adored him began to whisper their hatred. His unpredictability made him terrifying. One day he might shower you with gifts. The next, he might order your execution. To live under Caligula was to walk on the edge of a blade, never knowing when it might cut. And yet there is another side to this story. Some historians argue Caligula's reputation was crafted by his enemies after his death. The Senate, humiliated and stripped of power, had every reason to paint him as a monster. Could it be that some of his so-called madness was exaggerated? Was he truly insane, or simply an emperor too bold, too arrogant, and too cruel for the Senate to ever forgive? The truth may lie somewhere in between. But in the end, Caligula's reign could not last. His paranoia made him reckless. He insulted the Senate, alienated the Praetorian Guard, the very soldiers sworn to protect him, and surrounded himself with enemies. Rome was a city simmering with resentment, waiting for the right moment to strike. That moment came in January of the year 40, when AD. Caligula was attending a series of games at the Palatine. As he moved through a narrow passageway, surrounded by guards, a group of conspirators struck. Swords flashed, blood spilled, and the emperor, who believed himself a god, was cut down in a frenzy of violence. He was just 28 years old. His reign had lasted less than 4 years. In the chaos that followed, his wife and young daughter were murdered. The palace shook with fear and uncertainty. Rome had killed its god. And the people who once cheered his name now erased it, whispering curses where they had once shouted praise. But here's the haunting question: was Caligula truly mad, or was he a mirror of Rome itself? An empire built on conquest, blood, and power. Was it not inevitable that its ruler would become a reflection of those same forces? The story of Caligula forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about power. What does it do to a human mind? Can anyone hold the world's greatest empire in their hands without losing themselves? Or was Caligula doomed from the beginning, a boy scarred by tragedy, molded by cruelty, and consumed by the throne that was supposed to make him great? In the end, Caligula became both legend and warning. His reign was short, but his name has endured for 2,000 years, not as a hero, but as a symbol of how power can twist, corrupt, and destroy. And that is the tragedy of the emperor who lost his mind. History often remembers the monsters more vividly than the heroes. But behind every monstrous ruler is a human story, a child who once laughed, a young man who once dreamed. Caligula's story is not just about Rome, it is about us, about the fragility of the human mind when weighed down by the crushing weight of absolute power. So the next time you hear his name, don't just think of the mad emperor. Think of the boy in little boots, walking beside his father's soldiers, unaware of the destiny that would consume him. If you enjoyed this journey into the darkest corridors of Roman history, make sure to like this video, share it with others who love history, and subscribe for more powerful stories from the past. Because history is never just about what happened, it's about what it means for us today.